Hi, in this video, I'm going to answer one of the most important questions you have for your online business. How to choose best hosting for your website. Now, if you're going for an online business and obviously website is something you need, this is a must-watch video for you. Okay, unless you're living under rock, this question is very important for you. What is web hosting? Web hosting is one of the most important place for you. This is where your customer visit to download the invoice, to read your blogs, to watch your videos or listen to your podcast. Now consider it like that. If you have a house in a shady location, if you have an office in a shady location, do you think customers will come there, your friends will come there? Obviously, if they are your best friends, they might, but not everyone will come because they will say, okay, you live in a shady place, probably you are a shady person as well. So this is why you can understand a place has to be very important. And secondly, you host everything there from your database to your files, everything is hosted there. So this is very important. And then now let's learn why it is very important. Now, if you choose a web hosting provider which is not a genuine provider or not a brand or is a kind of a shady person, obviously there is a good possibility that a web browser, Google Chrome if I may, Firefox or anything will send a warning to a user. We don't trust this web hosting provider. Do not share your credit card details with them. And obviously when this kind of a message is sent to the student, to the people, they get scared. So this is very important. This is going to decide if your business is going to flourish like this or it is going to go down like this. Because obviously, wherever you are hosting your platform or your website or your files, if I may, is going to decide how your business is going to run, and this is very important. Now, obviously, you want me to compare brand A with brand B, which is not very possible for a very specific reason, because obviously, all the brands have their pros and cons. What I'm going to give you a framework with which you can actually decide what is the right option for you. So the first point in my framework is know what your website needs are. That means if you are actually starting a blogging platform, you should be aware of it. If you're starting a podcast, you should be aware of it. If you are into videos, you should know that. Or if you are into e-commerce, you should be aware of, because obviously all these platforms looks similar, all these types look similar, but there is a big difference in terms of storage, the amount of data you can store, and the bandwidth requirement, if I may. Bandwidth simply means how many people can visit, so there is a cap over that. So you have to understand what kind of a platform you are building. If you're building an e-commerce platform, you need a very good hosting. If I talk about in terms of video, you need high storage and high bandwidth. If you're starting podcasts, again, high storage, high bandwidth. If you're starting a blog, you need low bandwidth and low storage, because blogging does not require anything extra apart from images or maybe text at all. So this is how you're going to make the first step. Understand what you need and do they provide that? Do they have these kind of platforms? Secondly, subscription period for host contracts. So basically one thing which is quite important, what kind of a subscriptions they are offering. Usually what happens, people say they have a 12-month subscription, they have a 36-month subscription, they have a 48-month subscription, so on and so forth. So what kind of a subscription option they are offering? If they're offering something on the longer run, that means they have a bandwidth, if I talk about, and they have the required infrastructure to support you for next 5 years. This is very important. If someone is saying, okay, we are providing you a 3 months plan, they don't have anything apart from 3 months or maybe 6 months, that means even they are not sure about their business. So you should not make any mistakes going with the people who are offering you something just for cheap. Now, if your website goes down, your business will never flourish. Why? Because if customers cannot buy from the very place they are supposed to buy, obviously they're going to go to the competitor. So it is better that you actually check for the server reliability, how reliable their servers are, and what is the uptime guarantee they are offering. Some host will say that we have 100% uptime, which is obviously comes with a star sign. It means they can offer you at max 99.99 9. There is just one missing one, I should say a decimal one, which is always there. But still, majority of the web hosting providers have almost 100% of the uptime. That varies from various provider to provider. But understand that this is going to be a very crucial information. So please have a look into their uptime guarantee and their server reliability. Next is very important in terms of business. You have to understand what kind of a refund policy they have and what kind of a guarantees they are offering. Usually what happens, if you're going to a hosting provider, they will say, okay, we need a upfront one year contract, but they are not going to refund you because obviously refund is something you're not eligible for. So you have to understand, do they provide a refund policy? Because what happens, let's say if you're winding up your business or you are moving towards a next provider, or maybe you're not happy with the current provider, what is the chance that you will get a refund on that? Some providers offer you 30 days trial if I talk about. So within 30 days, if you feel like that they are not right for you, obviously you can get a full refund. Obviously, I know a lot of providers which do that. So obviously you have to understand that if this is something they follow, they are actually going to help you importantly and making sure that your website is up and running no matter what. Now, obviously, if you're going to work hard, your business, your website has to reflect that. And obviously, when you're growing, you need upgrades. What I mean by upgrade is currently, let's say you are having a website hosted on 10 GB of server. Now, since a lot of people are coming to your website, you have many customers, now you need 20 GB. So do you have the option of upgrading instantaneously? Because your customers are not going to call you, hey, I'm planning to visit a website. Can I visit the website? If you say no, I will not visit. So you have to understand, do they have this option of upgrade, which can happen instantaneously? If they do not provide this kind of an option, they say you have to go down for, let's say, 4 hours or maybe 6 hours so that we can upgrade your server. Do not choose them. Do not choose them. The next point is obviously verify the host primary features. So basically, this is very important. What kind of a features or primary features they are offering? If this is something which is matching with what kind of an audience you're expecting or what kind of a website you want to host, obviously you should be taking their service. I'll give a very simple example. Majority of the hosting providers provide WordPress hosting. So what happens, let's say if you're planning to host your create your website using WordPress, they will provide you a dedicated hosting just for WordPress. So this can be an advantageous for you because you're looking for something services which are similar, or I should say dedicated for WordPress hosting, which is required. The next option which you have to actually look for is obviously the add-ons. So I'll give a very simple example. Let's say you have purchased a hosting for $100 a month. That is technically $1,200 a year. Now the question is, you need some additional products or additional storage. Do they provide some add-ons? Do they provide some add-on services? Like, let's say if you're facing some challenge, which is a technical challenge, can they solve that by taking some extra money? Well, if they do offer, this is going to be a best option for you, because usually what happens, if they can actually provide you the add-ons, this actually helps you control the damage which is now coming towards your website. Or maybe if you need some extra space, obviously you can use the feature of add-ons to actually get the more storage option. Next option is obviously whether the host supports e-commerce. Now this is going to be specifically for people who are building websites for their e-commerce store. If the host is providing a dedicated support for e-commerce kind of a website, and if you're planning to start an e-commerce website, that can be a good option, because obviously they will have all the features trimmed, or I should say customized according to a e-commerce store. Now there are some web hosting providers where they offer you something which is known as first time bonus. So let's say if you're a first time customer, they will offer you some discount, but obviously if you go for a renewal, they will offer you a different pricing. So you should be aware of it. Like if you're getting some discounts, obviously if someone is providing a discount on the longer run, so this can be a money saver for you. So obviously this can be a very good parameter for you to choose. The next point is obviously kind of a control panel you will have access to. So usually what happens when you are planning to host a website or create a website, usually what will happen, you will have someone who is going to take care of it. Is it easy for them? Is it very difficult for them to actually navigate to your website and customize it, or maybe make the changes as required? If the answer is no, they are not the right provider for you for a very specific reason. If that is difficult for a person who is always aware of what is the technicalities, it will be always difficult for you. The last 2 points which you should be actually focusing on, obviously, about the limitations. So this is a very controversial thing which I may, even if you are an independent business, there could be the web hosting provider may face some pressure from the upper part of the society that you should go down or you should take this particular website down. So you should read their terms and conditions. At what instance they will be forced to actually shut down your website. This is very important. Or you can also find if the hosting provider will take any service or will place any limits to your account based on what kind of a data consumption you already have. And finally, companies' approach to environmental friendliness. Now, obviously, this can be not everyone will actually think about it, but obviously, if a company is having some carbon, they are not actually burning some carbon, they are having some good carbon footprint, if I talk about. So they can be a good deciding factor, but obviously, this won't affect how your web hosting provider is working for you. Now, there are some people who have such questions. Let's answer those queries. So obviously, can I build a website without the host? Well, answer is no. You cannot. Then obviously, what should I look for web hosting? So obviously, whatever things I have discussed in the previous part of slides, you can actually look for. Obviously, the things which you should be focusing on: storage, hosting, and the server availability, or I should say reliability. These are the 4 important things which you should be looking for. What is the difference between a host and a domain? Host is a place where you place all your files. Domain is just an address people are aware of. Domain is going to point to your host. So just like youtube.com has a specific hosting location, so will your website will. And how many web hosting services are there? Obviously, there is no answer. There are more than thousands, or maybe 10,000, or maybe 1 lakh. So obviously, we cannot answer that. So in conclusion, if I have to conclude, choosing a right hosting provider is going to be very, very important for you for a very specific reason. This is the place your customers are going to visit. And if your hosting provider is a shady hosting provider, or they are not providing the right kind of discounts, obviously this is something you should not strive for. So obviously, if you have any questions related to web hosting, you can put that in the comment and we will make sure that the questions are answered.